All of this is needed to make a resin paddle. So mixing cups, mixing bucket. I've got 2 different dyes. Drill bit with mixer. This is Alumilite. It's a polyurethane resin. Pressure pot. Paper towels. And then to clean up messes, acetone works best. This is a silicone mold that we made. We're actually also going to do a little dice set for something else. Kink Custom, if you're watching, this is part of the challenge. This stuff is measured by weight and not by volume. Another trick, anytime I pour resin, I always wipe off that drip, because even though it won't cure, it can still like kind of crystallize and make the cap hard to come off. So for this mold, it takes 600 grams of resin. Pedal's been demolded. Time for the next phase. Check that out. This was mixed with alcohol dye. Usually we use mica powders, which can still be a little transparent, but not like that. I mean, holy shit. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take tape and cover both sides of it. Then I'm going to take a hammer and try to break it and try to get, hopefully it doesn't break into thousands of little pieces, but maybe if I can get some good size like chunks, then I'm going to put the pieces back in the mold, try to get them basically laid out how the pattern kind of came out. And then I'll pour a clear resin on it and throw it back in the pressure pot. It should produce a really cool effect. That's what we're hoping. If it doesn't, then the reason for the tape is that way when I go to hit it with a hammer, pieces don't fly in every direction, and I can still kind of keep them somewhat lined up, and I know where they essentially go when I put them back in the mold. But really the biggest reason is it sucked to have pieces go flying all over the shop and then having to try to hunt them down and bloody blah blah blah. Now it's time for the smashing. Well, that did not work. I mean, that's a good sign because that means you're not going to break this paddle. If it's taking a hammer on a concrete floor, you're not going to break it on someone's ass. And honestly, I don't even know if I can get the right lighting. It didn't even mar it. Didn't even scratch it or do anything to it. I still want to kind of do the effect of kind of breaking it apart and then filling it with a clear resin for the negative spaces. I'll just have to take it to the saw and just kind of make some cool cuts, and that's what we'll do now. We'll keep it simple with just these cuts. Basically, everywhere these cuts will be, this will be individual pieces, and then we'll use clear resin to fill in the gaps when I put it back in the mold. I decided to improvise a little bit on the cuts because fuck it, why not? It's my goddamn project. Putting it back into the mold, I mean, all the pieces went back, but the thing is I want there to be more defined lines, like the negative spaces in between. So I'm going to take all the pieces to the sander and just kind of work back just a little bit, just a hair or two. That way those lines can be a lot more defined. That way when I pour the clear resin in, it's going to stand out a lot more. That definitely looks a lot better. I think I'm gonna work them a little bit more just to make it more defined. It's exciting for sure. All that white that was on it was usually that happens. Light is coming in contact with, if there's some type of moisture, it puts off that white kind of hazy filminess. That's why, like, when using it with wood, it's always extremely important to stabilize the wood or have it extremely dry, because any amount of moisture will kind of cause that. I don't know where the moisture came in this situation, but I was able to plane it off, which I was going to do anyways, because there was a lot of black marks that I use as like registration marks for putting everything back together. There's no way I would have been able to sand it down to them, so I just planed it down, and I need to route it and then sand it and then finish it, and it'll have extreme transparency again. That ought to be super fun. Yeah.